Big Truss. Woo woo. Lamar Jackson in the flesh. The Ravens went 14-2 last season. Pretty solid season, I would say, for them. Just disappointing with the playoff performance, obviously, but I think that's happened the past 2 years. I'm not going to talk about that right away. The week one game probably helped them out a lot, just getting to absolutely beat up on the Miami team, who was completely dysfunctional at the start of the season before their savior Ryan Fitzpatrick stepped in to right the ship. But it's just a good way to start. Get a beating in on a team and feel good about yourselves. It's nice. Hollywood Brown played really well early in the season. I'm just wondering when the injury came. I felt like the early season, the first half of the year went a lot better for him than the second half of the year. And I really don't know when he got hurt, but I think I saw an article recently that said he was playing through injury. So I believe it because there was a significant drop off at some point. Lamar Jackson chucks up a prayer against Kansas City, and it was answered. They're losing this game, and I think they're down like 2 or 3 scores. Lamar Jackson rolls out right, throws back across the entire field, 20 yards up the field, and the receiver just jumps up and makes a play on a ball that was basically on a 3rd and 20 right into the defender's arms, but the receiver outjumped the defender, and he got it answered. Still lost the game, but it's a very funny play because I'm watching the highlights for these guys, and it's just like, that's a highlight. That's like pure luck. Yeah. How did they allow the Browns to score 40 on them in the first game they played? I don't know. The Browns just seemed all messed up in different ways last year, but 40 against the Ravens, that's impressive. Tucker's the best kicker in the business. I mean, I don't even think anyone can argue that. How long he's been playing and how consistent he's been. He may be the best kicker all time, at least this deep into his career. Marlon Humphrey is one of my favorite players in the NFL. He does everything so well. He plays the run, he locks down in tight man-to-man coverage, sits in his zone really well, and comes up to tackle in the run game a ton, which I love. And he also plays a lot bigger than he is, or he looks a lot bigger than he is. He's 6 feet tall, I think, which for a cornerback is pretty tall, but he looks like I swear, I'm watching him in person last year, it looks like he's out there. He plays nickel a lot. He plays the nickel cornerback spot a lot. And maybe it's because of that. You're used to seeing like someone like Nickel Roby-Coleman, who's 5'8", playing nickel. But he just looks big, and he plays big, like a box safety. It's really a role that not many other players in the NFL can fill, and I'm always really impressed with him. Marcus Peters, pick six. He had multiple pick sixes in the season. Always impressive. He really plays in the short to intermediate game. He plays tight coverage, and you probably could beat him with a double move every once in a while with how hard he likes to bite on like curl routes. But boy, when he guesses right, he's gone the other way. He's been doing that for a while in his career now. Because there's a lot of good corners who don't have many pick sixes, but Marcus Peters is one that seemingly can get 1, 2, or more every season, just on his pure ability to read short routes quickly and jump them. It must be nice to have both a quarterback and a running back play the quarterback position. So they've basically got a running back at quarterback, and that's not a knock. He obviously is good enough to pass the ball at a very high level. The thing is this guy led the team in rushing at the quarterback position. And basically once they got later into the season, I think it may have been all season, but it felt like 80% of the runs they called on the field were some sort of option, because there was no reason to not call it an option. It was like, okay, well, we want to call the dive here, but there's no reason to not give our quarterback the option to keep it, so let's do it. Let's go pistol, single back behind Lamar, and snap it, and he'll read the edge defender, and we'll get to work. Or if you want to run inside zone, you can have him lined up in the shotgun formation. You can run it left, but if the defender runs after the running back, Lamar can keep it and take off. I mean, It's just crazy how much option they called during the season, and then also how much heavy personnel they got in the game. It was really cool. It had some power running. Really did well with it, and then obviously branching off the play action off of that worked very well. On defense, they are not scared to not only bring pressure, but they'll show you the pressure. They'll straight up line six guys up on the line of scrimmage right in front of the ball and bring all of them at the quarterback. And it's something I admire them doing. They're confident in all their secondary players to stay tight enough on these receivers that they won't be able to break in time for the quarterback to make a play when they send all this pressure. It's cool. Not once again another thing that not many teams do. Mark Ingram is a hard player to not enjoy watching. You know, just his personality. A lot of fans know it. Off the field is very exciting, and he's it's just a good time. Plus, I mean, he runs with it. He's got an interesting style. He's sort of a power back, but he's also not that large. So it's like it's really a style that's not just straight up one way or another. It's not like he's pure speed. It's not like he's pure power. He's somewhere in the middle. Yeah, Mark Andrews, such a good season. Yet I don't know what makes him that special. He gets a lot of targets. He gets a lot of catches, but there was maybe only one reception this season that I was like, wow. I think it's a lot to do with scheme. I think whichever tight end they decided would be the number one tight end would probably get a lot of targets and receptions on this team. So I don't know if he's that special, but if he's available for you in fantasy, after Ertz, uh, Darren Waller, who am I forgetting? Travis Kelsey. After those guys are gone, I think he's a pretty good pick. Yeah, Miles Boykin was the best jump ball receiver on the team. If I just told you a blanket statement that said Miles Boykin is the best jump ball receiver on a football team, and then I was to ask you what the record of that football team was, and you said 14-2, I would say you're an idiot. But that's exactly what this is. Yeah, it's pretty weird. The lack of really any sort of receiver talent on this team just makes it that much more impressive. The 14-2 record they were able to produce. I mean, really, the only two guys that are even like mediocre guys are a rookie and Hollywood Brown, who got injured for the second half of the season, and then Willie Snead is like a guy that people have known and he's been around the league a little while now. And then last thing I took note of for the play on the field is just how much you could praise so many of the players on this defense for just doing their job well. Except Earl Thomas. Yeah, he seemed like he'd make a few mistakes every so often, and kind of seeing why he got the axe recently. Stats. Lamar Jackson had more yards than Mark Ingram on the ground. Lamar had about 1,200 and Ingram had about 1,000, so that's pretty funny. 10 TDs on the ground for Mark Ingram. Lamar Jackson had 7 touchdowns on the ground. Mark Andrews was the leading receiver on the team. Marlon Humphrey, 14 passes defended, 3 interceptions. Marcus Peters, 10 passes defended, 3 interceptions. 4 forced fumbles for Matt Judon. And then Humphrey and Chuck Clark also had 2 forced fumbles. There was 9.5 sacks from Matt Judon, 5 sacks for Tyus Bowser. Chuck Clark led the team with 73 tackles and 65 tackles from Marlon Humphrey to be second place on the team in tackles. So that just shows how important the defensive backs play a role in like the run game here, with Chuck Clark and Marlon Humphrey being high on the forced fumble leaderboard and the total tackles, both of them being the top 2 guys. I mean, it's basically like I'd almost consider Marlon Humphrey like another strong safety. So it's basically like, ooh, are they a 3-4 or 4-3? Oh boy, I should know this. This is bad. I think they're a 3-4. So basically, what they're doing is they're running a system where instead of running a 2-4, they're almost running a 2-4-5. Yeah, because they've got Marlon Humphrey and Chuck Clark on the field so much as they're both acting as strong safeties, and then they'd have Earl Thomas back deep with pretty sure Jimmy Smith and Marcus Peters on the outside. And I really like that lineup. It's a smaller package, but it's interesting, and it worked tremendously last season, obviously. So I don't think you could say much bad about it. 14 tackles for a loss for Matt Judon, and 7 for Pernell McPhee. He was second on the team in tackles for a loss with 7. Tucker is almost 97% accurate on kicks. So that's amazing. Now back to Pernell McPhee. Tony Jefferson and Pernell McPhee both missed basically the whole second half of the season. So that's that basically would mean that Pernell McPhee, if you just double his results for tackles for loss, he would be 14 tackles for loss. He would have had a really good year. Interesting to see what he does when he comes back. And then I'm wondering what Tony Jefferson's role is. I didn't see that he is not on the team anymore. Um, I'm just feeling kind of strange about that because I haven't really heard his name mentioned this off season when I've seen anything talked about the Ravens. So I'm not gonna bring him into the evaluation too much, especially since he was injured last year. I really don't know what's up with Tony Jefferson at this point. All I know is that for some reason I didn't see that he moved on from the Ravens, so I'm gonna assume that he's still on the roster. Um, Now let's talk about the losses, guys that left the team. Hayden Hurst left the team. Earl Thomas is gone. Patrick Onwuasor, that's a name that I don't think I've ever actually attempted to say. So he's not on the team anymore. Michael Pierce, Seth Roberts, Josh Bynes, and Marshall Yanda retired. Um, Guys that I think are big names here, Earl Thomas, but honestly, I didn't think he played extremely well for them. He wasn't doing anything crazy. Michael Pierce, a big part of the middle of that defense. I think he held up a lot of blockers at that D tackle spot, and I'm really starting to lean towards the fact that they were a 3-4 team. And then Patrick Onwuasor also had a decent number of snaps at the linebacker position. People they added in the offseason. They added Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, two guys on the defensive front that should make it a little more challenging on offense. And then they added offensive lineman DJ Fluker. So I like all those additions. They didn't lose anyone crazy in free agency, and they added a few solid pieces. Not only free agency, but the trade with Calais Campbell. And then the draft, I think they killed the draft. Patrick Queen is the first guy that they selected. He could play middle linebacker for as long as Ray Lewis and be just as successful. I mean, he really shows great flashes when he was playing at LSU, and I believe that he could be in a league for a very long time because he's just an all-around great player, just like J.K. Dobbins, an all-around talented running back. I just can't believe they got him as late as they did. Seriously, this is a steal for them. We know how much they love to run the ball. You already have Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gus Edwards basically drops off the face of the earth because J.K. Dobbins is a heck of a player to not have on the field. Next up, Justin Madubuike. Justin Madubuike? Sorry if I can't get that. He's not huge with... He's not huge. He's got decent power and some good finesse on the inside. He's a defensive tackle. I don't know. When you get a guy that's probably going to be playing on the interior defensive line, I would probably like a little more power. But, I mean, hey, you got a guy. He could be the guy that comes in on 3rd and long, gets after the quarterback, and we'll see what's up. Devin Duvernay, wide receiver from Texas. He's a pure speed kind of guy and probably not as talented as other receivers in the draft, considering it just seems like he was running past the defense most of the time. And if you can scout well, you're going to pay attention to that. But I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out what. I was like. I was like, so if this guy's a pure speed guy, I don't usually look at the combine numbers. I just look at the on-field stuff. But I was like, if this guy's a pure speed guy, he's not like crazy fast. He's not reaching Tyreek Hill speeds or Chris Johnson speeds on the 40-yard dash. But I'm like, what do I think he ran at the combine? And I was like, ooh, I want to try to get it right on. And I started out at 4.36, and I was like, nah, he didn't run a 4.36. He's slower than that. And I was like, it was probably a 4.38 or a 4.40. And then in my head, I was like jumping back and forth. And I was like, no, he's not 4.38 fast. He's 4.40. I'm going to go with a 4.40. And I don't know how you're going to look at this, but he ran a 4.39, so he was a little bit faster than I said. Just, that 100th of a second faster. So I'm sorry for knocking your speed, Devin Duvernay. Yeah, but he's fast, and he's probably going to be a deep threat for these guys. Malik Harrison, he punches. He punches. He doesn't punch people. Actually, he may. I don't know. I didn't watch that much of him. But he punishes anyone who has the ball, and he's a linebacker. He's also solid in coverage. He really I just he'd come on a blitz and absolutely blow up the quarterback, or he'd read a screen pass and just come up and blow up whoever had the ball. It was just big hits all over the place with this guy. Fun guy to watch. I don't know. That's what I got to say about him. Also, good in coverage, like I said. Next, they picked two guards in the third and fourth round in Tyree Phillips and Ben Bredesen. So, obviously, looking for a replacement for Marshall Yanda here. I'll have to see what they do. Also, DJ Fluker is listed as a guard, so he could also replace Yanda. Maybe just trying to throw a bunch of pieces at the wall, and we'll see what sticks. Next up, Broderick Washington Jr. Just simply wrote for him, powerful big boy. He's strong, he's a defensive tackle, and he plays in the middle and he's got size on his side. Next up, we've got our off-brand player of the video. James Proche is off-brand Odell Beckham Jr. And if you watch him, honestly, I would love to know if people think any different. Because I keep saying these off-brand things, but I keep watching these guys, and I'm like, geez, he's literally playing just as I would think the other guy does. He looks just like Odell Beckham on the field. He's even wears number 3. I think Odell was 3 at LSU. He's been number 13 in the league, obviously, but that 3 reminded me of him as well. He's got a lot of catches that are great adjustments, one-handed snags, and he's about the same size as Odell too. So it really gets me thinking of Odell Beckham Jr. and the similarities. And yeah, next up, and lastly, Geno Stone. This guy is a safety from Iowa, if I remember correctly, and really all that I saw with this guy is just he's an 110% effort guy. I mean, he was not going slow for anyone. He's just always flying up the field with reckless abandon, and he hits people hard. Fun guy to watch. And you're never gonna have to worry about effort with him. Just wondering about actual talent. Yep. So we're on to it. The opponents. Who do the Ravens have to play? And are they better or worse than last season? I think based off what I said, the Ravens will be actually a better team this season. The roster's better overall, and I'm hoping that we'll see them win a playoff game this year, just because I really don't care, unless it's against the Bills. They can lose if it's against the Bills, but I really don't want to start having to listen to the fact that Lamar Jackson can't win a playoff game with this type of roster. I mean, they're going to, the media is going to put it all on the quarterback, so that would just be a train wreck. And he's got a good team. As long as they don't run into anything stupid like the Titans, and they get a safety opposite Chuck Clark that is willing to tackle Derrick Henry, I think they'll be in a good position. Let's talk about the divisional opponents they will have to play. Obviously, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, they will have to play them all twice during the season. And I think you look at Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati doesn't stand a chance this season against Baltimore. I think they'll whoop them twice. Um, then, yeah, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is tough. You're probably going to have a tough matchup against Pittsburgh, and Cleveland put up a fight in both the games they played, and they beat them once last season. So I mean, you can't count out Cleveland, but I still think even with that, this roster, um, all the talent they have all over the field, especially adding two receivers in the draft just to make it a little harder on defenses because the receiver area was really the position that you looked at and said that's lacking the most. That threat of just them being all over the field, offense or defense, they've got pieces all over the place. I think that really helps them. Like I said in the Browns video, I really don't trust the Browns defense. I think the Ravens will be able to move the ball against them fairly easily this season. And as for the Steelers, I think the Steelers game is the game that if they lose a game in the division, they'll lose to the Steelers. So I'm gonna say in the division they'll go 5-1, and now we can talk about the opponents they have to play at home. Uh, wow, I see two teams immediately that they're gonna have to play at home outside of the division that are just cupcakes. Like holy crap, hand them the wins now. We don't even need to play these games. They're going to have to play the New York Giants at home, and they're going to have to play the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. Those games could be ugly. Um, Daniel Jones, still a young quarterback. Gardner Minshew, still a young quarterback. Both teams with not a ton of help around him. Maybe Saquon sneaks in for a few touchdowns. I mean, that Giants game could be something like 40-10, and that Jaguars game could be something like the first game of this season where it's like 59-3 in the Ravens' favor. So I'm going to give them 2 wins just immediately off the bat in those 2 games. And then they have Dallas at home, they have Tennessee at home, and they have Kansas City at home. Um, I think it's really gonna be tough for them to figure out when these games are. They're 7-1 at this point with the games I've picked so far. I I don't know why I feel this way, but does that make sense? I'm trying to think if I'm thinking logically. I'm feeling a 1-2 record in these games against Dallas, Tennessee, and Kansas City. For some reason, I feel like they're going to drop 2 of those. Maybe it's just because of the idea that if you have such a good season one year, 14-2, 15-1, 16-0, it's going to be really hard to get to that win total again. That's a very high win total. I mean, a 12-4 record in the NFL is very impressive, and I'd be happy. I think most teams should be happy with a 12-4 record. So I'm feeling 1-2, but is that logical? Do I actually believe the Titans are a better team than them? No. Do I believe Dallas is a better team than them? No. Is Kansas City though? Potentially. So actually, I just by saying that test out loud, um, I think one of those 3 games they may drop. So after that, I think we're looking at a 9-2 team headed into the away games that we have to talk about, which is 5 games remaining. 9-2, they win. Yes, okay. Just making sure I was right there. So they're going to have to play the Washington football team on the road. Give that win to them right now. Don't even need to discuss it. 10-2. They'll have to go to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles are not a good team. I'll give them that win too. Not a bad team, but I definitely don't think they're on the same level as the Baltimore Ravens. They just haven't. The injuries they've sustained the past few seasons haven't allowed them to play together and mold together in a way that I think will work out. Although I could see this as some sort of a random game. The Eagles are a weird team. The Eagles absolutely destroyed my Buffalo Bills last season, and that was the only game we got absolutely smoked in, basically. So that was a surprise to me. I was hoping I wasn't shocked we lost the game. I was really mad at how much we lost the game by though. And you just you look at the Eagles, and then also last season they managed to lose to the Dolphins. So you just had no idea what was going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. They got into the playoffs, and it was just like, oh, this is weird. Um, so Philadelphia is a game they could definitely lose. Um, for some reason, I'm just feeling like they're gonna lose to them. So right now, I'll say they'll drop that one to Philadelphia, and that puts us at 10-3 with 3 games to go. The last 3 games are the Indianapolis Colts, Houston Texans, and New England Patriots. Um, I'm feeling confident in them against the Indianapolis Colts. Uh, the Indianapolis Colts will obviously be indoors, so I mean there won't be any weather affecting that game. Just think, I think that I don't think the Colts have the talent to keep up with them all around. I think they're going to beat the Colts pretty easily. I even think New England. I think New England's starting to look pretty bad. Cam Newton just got named the starting quarterback, but things seem to be on a very solid downtrend for them. And the further we get in this offseason, even though there's only a few days left in it, meaning the closer we get to the season, the less confident I'm feeling in the New England Patriots to be a football team to be scared of. So I'm going to say they'll beat the New England Patriots pretty easily too. And the last game I have to talk about is the Houston Texans. I don't know why. I'm just always confident in these guys. I think it's the fact that Deshaun Watson is a heck of a quarterback, and really they've managed to put a ton of weapons on that offense around him with a reliable left tackle now. And Laramie Tunsil. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just I trust. I'm like, his blind side is protected, and they have weapons for him all over the field. I just feel that offense is so good. You've got guys like J.J. Watt on the defense. Um, it. I guess I'm kind of talking up the defense a little too much when J.J. Watt's really the only player that's that much of a superstar. But I do like them as a team. And I could see the Ravens falling one more time next season to the Houston Texans just because I feel the Texans are going to be good. I feel like everybody's down on the Texans just because of the DeAndre Hopkins trade, but the Texans are still a very solid football team overall, and I think that's going to leave us with a 12-4 record for the Baltimore Ravens. Once again, 12-4, very good record. Could bump it up to 13-3 even, but I just don't like the idea of them repeating with that's an extreme number of wins. Very hard to repeat that many wins. But they're good enough. They could get up there. They could get 13 plus wins, but I'm going to set it at 12 right now. And 12-4 record prediction for the Baltimore Ravens. So, if you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching. 2020 president candidate.